Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Tuesday morning, December the 21st. I'm happy to be here. This is one child abuse survivor to another, and we're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. Chat room, I'm just putting the chat room up right now, and I'm glad to be able to do the shows and, appreciate everybody who's tuning in. It's just awesome. We're going to continue looking at this article from Alan N. Schwartz, The Deleterious Effects of Child Abuse. And excuse me, we're almost done with this article, but I just want to finish it up. And he's written some good stuff here. There's a lot of articles on this website. This is from www.mentalhelp.net, and there's lots and lots of articles on this particular website regarding sort of surrounding, child abuse, domestic violence, survivor issues, adult survivor issues, and things. So I hope everybody will go check this out at www.mentalhelp.net and just look under the, just search around on there to see what's on there. There's all kinds of good info on there. And so, I find this information very helpful for me. I hope it's helping somebody else, that's for sure. So I'll pop the link into the chat room here, and that's what we're going to talk about. So I'm not a counselor or therapist. I don't hold any certificates or degrees in that area. I'm just a private citizen paying to do my own blog talk shows. And, mainly to be another voice, really. I just wanted to raise my voice along with everybody else who's speaking out against abuse and standing up, to say that, hey, abuse is wrong of any type, especially child abuse, because children don't have a voice. They really have no protection unless we protect them. They have no rights unless we stand up for them. And, I just wanted to be one more voice out here, and also for survivors. So that's why I do this show in the morning, and really is helping me out because it's sort of like helps me to sort of work through some of this stuff. And so really you are all on my healing journey with me. And hopefully it's helping somebody else out too, because I know we're not alone. Sadly enough, I realized that one time when I was sitting around thinking, I'm not alone, right? I'm not alone. And then I thought, oh, how sad, how pathetic. There's so many people who have been abused. I knew so many myself throughout my lifetime. So that's, I've mentioned that quite a bit on this show, but that's because that's the truth. And absolutely horrible, that people have to deal with this stuff and try to make some sense and pick up the pieces, after, living through something and being forced to endure something that really wasn't even their fault, had nothing to do with them. Because abuse is always the abuser's fault. It's always the abuser's issue. The abuser is choosing to do what they do, so everybody else just pays the price for it, right? That's why I'm just so determined to be another voice and continue speaking out. I really want to, my goal is to get involved in public speaking and go nationwide and Canada-wide and the United States, right, North America-wide, and hopefully worldwide, at some point. But, for now, I just thought, well, I'll just do these blog talk radio shows. And so I hope, thanks everybody for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'm not a counselor or therapist. You have to listen at your own discretion, and all of my shows are sensitive. I talk about everything to do with abuse, and abuse is a very sensitive topic. So if you're not sure, if you think it might make you uncomfortable, and it might bother you, then you have to turn the show off, because ultimately it is your discretion. You have to know what's good for you to listen to. So if it'll bother you, or you even think it'll bother you, then you turn the show off, or you listen at your own discretion, right? Ultimately, it is your choice to know what is good for you to listen to, right? And abuse is a very sensitive topic. So if you think it'll bother you, just turn the show off. And young people under the age of 18, you have to listen you have to have permission to listen to my show, right? You have to have somebody listen to the show with you, just to make sure that it's okay, that age appropriate for you, and that it's something that you should be listening to, because I believe in protecting young people at all times. And so if there's a chat room present, especially, so there's I have a chat room here, and you have to be very careful what you're doing and know that there's a lot of really crazy, sick individuals out there who are trying to get a hold of children. And they'll say anything. They'll say, they'll tell children and young people, teenagers and stuff. They'll say that they're 14. They like to party. They like to go to the mall. They like to watch movies and play, all these video games and stuff. And they'll know the latest music. They'll know everything about what young people like. And then they'll get you to meet them someplace, and it turns out to be a child sexual predator or child sexual offender who will try to assault the child, right? Assault you, right? You don't want that. Keep yourself very safe when you're online, and that's why I ask people under the age of 18 to have someone approve, the situation, that you can listen to my show. So thanks everybody for being here. Appreciate it. And I think I popped that link into the chat room. This is from www.mentalhelp.net. And this particular article we were just talking about here yesterday and really last week, the deleterious effects of child abuse. And we were looking at what Alan N. Schwartz had to say about this, and we left off that at A fear, this is number 4, a fear that underneath they are just like the abusive parent and that therefore they're inherently evil or are a bad seed, right? This is what a survivor might think. Somebody who has survived child abuse, they might have a fear that they're just like their parents, right? And therefore they're inherently evil or a bad seed, right? We were talking about that. And then number 5, we'll pick up here. These feelings and thoughts are tenacious and are resistant to anyone giving this person any kind of compliment. So a lot of times people who have been abused really have a hard time with compliments, because they almost can't believe it themselves that, if somebody says, "Oh, that's so great, you've done a great job," then they might think, in the back of their mind, they're thinking, "No, how could I do a good job? I'm just useless. I'm just worthless." So they don't know how to take compliments. I know I was like that for a long time. I can kind of still be like that, depending on how I'm feeling that day. You know what I mean? I try not to be so wishy-washy, but if I'm having a hard time, and I have a little bit of a hard time with some compliments sometimes, it depends on how down I am. But my I've been able to be pretty steady here for the last 4 years, and so I'm doing really quite well. But years and years ago, I think I used to have a little bit of trouble with that, especially as a teenager, because I was the aftermath of the abuse and still in it, right? So had a little bit of a hard time with that. And people, might say, "Oh, well, you're such a nice person," right, to a survivor, and a survivor might think, "Well, that's not what I've been told." Like if they grew up being abused and the abuse just continues on, and their dysfunctional immediate family is toxic, and abusive, right? They might sit there and think, well, this person's saying I'm a good person, but then look what my own family's saying about me, that I'm not a good person. So I can't be a good person. So they believe what their abusers tell them, And I mean, I know that had an effect on me as well, because I believed that what my mom said was true, that I was just this bad kid and that I was horrible to her. I was just horrible. In her mind, I was just this horrible thing. And that's why she beat on me, right? That she could justify beating on me and cursing at me and spitting on me because in her mind, I was this horrible kid, right? And so she kind of, forcibly made me feel that I was a bad kid, right? That's why I hated myself, and I hated her, and I had a whole lot of problems growing up. And it's horrific what people do to their children, all because they're hurting and they're screwed up and they won't get some help, right? My mom and dad both needed help. They both were ordered to get counseling, and court-ordered counseling, because they were both brought up on abuse charges. And we were not removed from the home, but the social workers were coming in and for quite a while, checking on us and everything. And this makes me sick that my parents did not do what they were court-ordered to do, which was to get counseling for their marital problems and their own personal counseling, because my parents were both had a lot of problems, mental problems as well. They were both abused as children. Especially my mom, but my dad was mentally ill, so it's just there was a whole lot of problems there, right? And so, I mean, I kind of, after a while, you spend so much time with abusive people, you might tend to believe what they say about you, you know what I mean? And so I did feel bad. And then I even have today, because I've spoken out and wrote my book. And first it was a blog called Not So Fond Memories, Growing Up in an Abusive Home, and then Donna Shear from Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, the president of and CFO of Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, saw the blog and said, "This really needs to be a book. I mean, I hope one day that you publish that, because she said your story is powerful and it really could help people." And I was like, well, that's thank you, I appreciate that. And but I didn't take her serious, right? I just thought she was just being nice, right? But she actually wanted to publish the book, and I contacted her later. I said, "Are you serious? Like you really want to publish the book?" And then she said, "Yes, I do." And so we did, and the book was the blog, and it still is. Like, it didn't change much. There was hardly any words changed out of it. It is just the blog, with a couple of added words here and there just to make it flow a little bit better. But yeah, this is the thing. I mean, my family today, I have like 2 siblings left, and my dad. Out of 10 people, there's 4 of us left, and so it's pretty small. 1 sister, 1 brother, and my dad left, right? And in my mind, I feel like that same kid from years and years ago, because I've gone public now, and the disdain that's coming from my family because I've gone public. Obviously, they don't like it. My dad is actually having less problems with it than anybody, because he seems to be handling it quite well. You know what I mean? He's just like, whatever. But the rest of my family is even though he was my abuser, one of them anyway, and he was brought up on charges, he seems to be okay with the whole thing. But my brother and my sister are totally, they're not here to support me through this, you know what I mean? Because they don't like what I've done. So in the back of my mind, I feel like that kid again, that worthless, no good, rotten kid that my mom beat and kicked into me on a regular basis, right? That I was just a bad kid from the beginning and that I was horrible. And so, of course, by writing my story and coming forward and going public and the lack of support from my own immediate family, which is pretty obvious, they're still dysfunctional, right? So it's not like, like that's going to change, right? But in the meantime, so I mean, I know how to look at this now. But I'm telling you, the effects of this really go a long, long way because, even though I've come out and done what I found was really the only way that I could heal and move forward was to talk about what happened to me and my family, right? In doing that, my brother says, "Oh, I hate what she's doing," and my brother hasn't talked to me for like over 4 years anyway, so he's not like he's supportive, so I really don't care. But the whole issue is just to know that he hates what I'm doing, and he probably thinks, "Oh yeah, she was just a bad kid anyway and deserved what she got," right? And that's the whole issue. It's like all these feelings come back because of this, right? There's no support within my own immediate family, and my sister, she's ignoring the whole thing, and just kind of. And so I decided not to talk to her. I've actually cut her off because I don't want to hear any more of her codependent style of thinking. That we're supposed to just rally around my abuser dad and everything's fine and there was never no problems in our home, even though we do talk about it and we have talked about it over the years. It's just that they're choosing just to let it go and because maybe that's the only way they can deal with it, right? But I can't do that, see? So I mean, in the meantime, I'm feeling kind of like that kid again. That my whole family actually made me feel like that. Not just my mom. I mean, I talk. That's the whole issue. That's why I'm doing these shows because my whole family. It wasn't just my mom who was abusing me. My dad was abusive as well. My mom was my main abuser. But my dad was also very abusive, and so were my siblings. Right? The siblings were not gathering around. Pulling together because our parents were abusing us. We were very much not together as a group. The only connection there really was in the family was that my brother Rob and my brother Chess were really close because my brother Chess was always trying to protect my brother Rob because my brother Rob is the one who my dad was picking on and beating on all the time. And so my dad, that's why he got busted for child abuse. Both my parents were busted and brought up on child abuse charges because my brother Rob went to school one day with he was all beat up and he had a turtleneck on in the middle of the summer in New Mexico, and you just don't do that. Like that's a serious sign. Like if a child shows up in a turtleneck in the middle of the summer in New Mexico, there's problems because it's so hot there. You just don't wear turtlenecks in the summertime in New Mexico, 105 degrees Fahrenheit, or 110, depending on how hot of a summer it is. So they noticed bruises on his face, and the teacher took him to the nurse, and they checked him out, and of course he had been beaten. And so he said he was afraid to go home. He was afraid of my dad, right? So they got the authorities involved. So that was my brother Rob. So Chess was always trying to stick up for Rob, and that's the only real connection that I could see in the home. My sister Irene was a loner, hated everybody, including her brothers and the rest of us, and actually hated her parents, right? My parents were abusive to her too. My dad ripped her shirt and bra off in the middle of the street one time when she was a teenager in front of her friends and called her a slut and a whore and made her go in the house and was extremely abusive to my sister. And my brothers all hated my dad because he was always kicking the crap out of them, calling them names and just being abusive in every way, but nobody really banded together, you know what I mean? My brother Kevin left the home when he was like 16. It's not like we all sat around together, we're okay, we love each other, and we'll be all right. Our parents are abusing us, but no big deal. So now, the older siblings abuse the younger siblings. My older siblings saw my mom and my dad both beating on me and calling me names and treating me horribly, so that's what they did. So not only was I suffering at the hands of my parents, but I was suffering at the hands of my siblings, and one of them was sexually abusing me. So, this is the whole issue. This is what's wrong with dysfunctional families, right? It's not like there was anybody banding together to support, someone within the situation. Me and my sister are closest in age, 5 years apart. There were 2 children born in between me and her, but they were both born stillborn. So I made it only because the doctors actually had emergency C-section done because I was dying. See, my mom would have let me die. My mom that's what she did to the other 2, I'm sure of it. She was so, because my dad was raping her, see. She was not, after my sister was born, especially after my brother was born, I think my sister was really born out of rape too, to be honest with you. But after my brother was born, Howard, the 7 years before I was born, My mom said she actually stopped sleeping with my dad. She stopped having sex with him, and because the doctors told her that she would die if she had another child, see. But my dad kept forcing himself on her. So 7 years later, after popping out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more kids, right? I finally, 3 of them died stillborn. So then there was my brother, my sister, and then me. But the doctors actually saved my life, and I was in an incubator for a long time, for a couple months, right? Because I was underweight, like I was a preemie. I was born like 3 months early. I only weighed about 3 pounds or something. My mom was just going to let me die inside of her, right? She because she hated me, right? So then I was born and I was brought into the home, and she was just like, "Oh my God, here's this terrible, horrible rape child. I gotta raise another crap rape child." That was in her mind. So basically, that's what I had to hear my whole life. That I was just I was unwanted. I was not. Wanted at all. I was just a rape child, and that she hated me, right? I mean, that's just lovely to have to wake up to a mother that's screaming and cursing at you and telling you that she hates you and you're just a rape child and that she wished you would have died. I mean, this is what I heard my whole life. And so for my siblings to sit here and not support me on this, and not come, and my 2 siblings that are left, my brother and my sister, to not come over to my place and say, you know what, we're so sorry that we could not protect you. We it's not that we didn't try, it's not that we didn't want to, but we were being abused too. And come and just be a part of my life, you know what I mean, as a survivor, as a and on my healing journey. But they're not willing to do it because then they would have to acknowledge the past, see? And it's just too painful for them. They really don't want to do it. My brother said he would kill my dad, and that he didn't go to my sister's funeral. I mean, he didn't go to my sister's funeral, my other sister, but he didn't go to my mom's funeral either. He had a lot of problems dealing with my dad, even though he talks to my dad. But I think he can't even begin to address this stuff because he just feels. And then he says stuff like, well, it's just life, it's the way it is. He excuses it away, right? And and that's the question the comment here that Alan N. Schwartz makes on number 6. Even when these patients learn that they were abused at the hands of one or both parents, there is a continued tendency to explain away parental or abuse as having been deserved or something. What Albert says here, people to oh well, wasn't that a big deal, or I'm going through that. That's my brother says. I can go through the stuff you did. And the reason why he does that is because he's 16 years older than me, 7 years older than me, and he's when the social workers came in, and I was about two years old, he was already gone. He was moved out of the house, right? He started talking when my parents got married. He says they grew up differently, but I don't really believe that because my mom would tell me stories about my dad. My parents were always playing everybody against each other, right? So my mom would tell me all the stuff my dad had done and would do, and then my dad would tell me all the stuff that my mom had done. So they wanted us to hate the other parents, see? And so they were always narking on each other. Well, your father did this and he did that, and I believe what my mom said was true because she had no problems narking on my dad, right? And say stuff about my mainly was called him a whore, that she was sleeping around, and none of us could hear his, and he maintained that through my whole life, that none of his they weren't the neighbors, like he was just lose mental, but very creative, and so just get away. And my sister was incredibly damaging. It was. We were in a coming together system in the home. She was always abusing me. She was always pounding what she was doing. Was the house opposite she was a lot more sibling to sibling, but she was a lot bigger. She was 5 years older and a whole lot bigger than me. And she was just treating me basically like my parents were treating me. We did not come together as or home. By the time my mom was actually battering me with rolling pins and broomsticks and kicking me and seriously injuring me, I was older. You know what I mean? I was between the ages of like 12 and I would say most of the abuse happened between the years of 8 and 16. So you know the last few attacks when I was 17 were just pretty minimal. But my mom was hugely abusive to me for, you know, especially for about a period of 8 years. And nobody cared. No, they didn't care that my mom was beating the crap out of me. And my dad too. Nobody cared about that either. So it's kind of, I've got these two siblings that know I've written this book and they hate it. So it almost does bring me back to the feelings that I felt as a kid that, okay, maybe I am just worthless and horrible because I've gone and narked out my parents. Well, too bad. My parents were brought up on charges, so everybody knew about that. And so, you know, I'm not saying nothing that isn't true. And when I wrote my blog, I sat down and I thought, you know, okay, I have to be 100% honest here because honesty is everything to me. It's everything. It means everything to me, and integrity is huge. And I thought, okay, I cannot write stuff that is not true. So anything that I didn't have a clear cognitive memory of, that I could point out pretty much what time of year it was, what people were wearing, where the furniture was in the house, and even what house we were living in and what grade I was in, how old I was. I can't. Then it didn't go into my blog because I wanted to blog clear conscious memories. I have a whole lot of stuff. Could have gone into that blog, but I chose to leave it out because I could not get a hold of certain pieces of it. You know what I mean? Because it was pretty sexual. Um, on an episode, there was some pretty bizarre stuff happening. And you know, the thing is I just chose to leave that stuff out because I don't have clear. When I wrote my blog, I said to myself, it has to be the truth. I don't. Man, like so that I can let it go. Because while I know what happened, I still I'd like to move on, right? So, you know, it's really, that I would dad, older man, you know, he's quite a bit older than me, or was it a younger face? And I thought, oh, it was a younger face, longer hair. So what my brothers both had long hair. So I see there's these little tidbits I can get, you know, and I think I know which brother it was. That's what I mother. So, I did that for because my two brothers died and went to their graves with in shame and silence. Nobody knew my brother Rob, you know, and my brother Howard. They just sort of looked at them like they were such losers because they were drug addicts. My brother Rob was a cocaine addict and he killed himself. He had tried many times before. Times. He was having some serious problems here. But anyway, I don't know if I'll still be streaming or not because he's really not sure if I mean just we're did not they did not reach out and get any help. So people would say, well, that's their own fault because they should have. And yeah, I keep getting thrown off the show, so I think there is a problem with Blog Talk Radio. They actually had a little message on there that they were experiencing some troubles. So anyway, I guess what we'll do is we'll end this show today. We've only got a few left, but I would say if there, yeah, that's horrible. I've been dropped about 5, 6 times now from the show, so they're serious. So I would say, we can change the way we feel about ourselves. Start just thinking real thoughts about who you are and how you are, and that's what I did. I started thinking I don't have to believe those lies and garbage that my parents put on me. I'm a good person. I'm a bad person. Not now. It's ultimately our responsibility, and to have a good life, right? And so we have to do it ourselves, right? And if we have to get help, we do. There's nothing wrong. So